My dad was an Air Force veteran. I grew up in the Air Force. It wasn't until, and I was young and I was a teenager, and of course you don't listen to your parents. And he was like, life in the Army isn't the same as in the Air Force. And I was like, well, what could be so different, right? Well, a lot.
Welcome, everyone, to the Scuttlebutt. I'm your host, Sean Hall, the Director of Programming with the Veterans Breakfast Club, a small nonprofit based in Pittsburgh, PA. Our mission is to create communities of listening around veterans to connect, educate, heal, and inspire. We've been going strong with the Scuttlebutt for about 3 months now. We're so excited to have you join us, as always. I am not a veteran. I love this podcast because we are trying to bridge the military-civilian divide. With me is a new guest, Amber Spells, and 2 returning guests, Ryan All and Becky Nyren. I'd love to go right around and have everyone introduce themselves as we get started. We'll start off with our newbie, Amber. How you doing?
I'm great. Thank you for having me.
Definitely. And you are a veteran?
I am. My claim to fame to becoming a veteran is that I served as in the Pennsylvania Army National Guard as a weekend warrior, and then I got deployed during Operation Enduring Freedom.
Okay, so what were your years of service?
I'm about to age myself. So from 1997 to 2006.
Oh, wow. And being a civilian, I always try to, if there's any terms that come up that I don't know from the military world, you say a weekend warrior. What is that?
So that was the name given to those who were either reservists or Army National Guard or in the National Guard period. Because what we weren't full-time. Our main service was we attended what they classified as drills. So that was mainly on the weekend. And then the longest stint of work we did was during our summer training or tactical training, which was about between a week or 2 weeks.
Okay. Thank you. And Ryan, you went from being full-time to the reserves. Am I correct, or is that National Guard?
So yeah, I was in the National Guard, and I just switched over to the reserves just this year.
So you have become a weekend warrior.
No, I always was.
Okay.
I was in the Pennsylvania Army National Guard.
Okay.
And I deployed in 2005 and then again in 2009 to Iraq, and then just recently became a Army reservist.
Nice. And Becky, I'd like you to introduce yourself again.
Thanks for having me back, Sean. My name's Becky Nyren. I'm a Gold Star wife. My husband, Staff Sergeant Nathaniel Nyren, served with the U.S. Army from 1995 until 2004 when he was killed in Iraq during Operation Iraqi Freedom. So I'm proud to be here today to represent the Army discussion.
Thank you, Becky. And everybody that's watching and listening, we thank you so much for joining us. And if you wouldn't mind liking and sharing and subscribing and ringing the bell on YouTube, that way you're the first to know whenever we release our episodes every Monday. We also want to connect with you. So please leave us a comment on YouTube, or you might want to leave us a comment on TikTok, as Scuttlebutt has been featured on the Veterans Breakfast Club page. Or you can email me at sean@veteransbreakfastclub.com. Speaking of TikTok, you may have noticed last episode, James Martin, a Marine, talked about going 3 months without a shower. Well, that video on TikTok has gone viral. At this time, it's almost 500,000 views and over 100,000 likes, which is kind of crazy. I don't know if anyone here has gone viral. I've definitely never gone viral, but now I'm a part of a video that goes viral. So you might want my autograph now. But we wanted to read some of the comments that came out of this video. James talking about the fact that they went 3 months without a shower, and then somebody finally took one and used Suave Strawberry Fields, and all of the guys in the unit were like, what is this? And it's very funny. I hope that you take a chance and look it up. But some of the great comments that came out of this were Marissa Lang, I can't tell you how happy I am to have found this account. I grew up around vets, feels like home. Mason Davenport, what's the podcast called? I want to check it out. We are the Scuttlebutt. We're here every Monday. So Mason, hope that you're enjoying the show. Cran God, some interesting TikTok user IDs. He said, which episode is this? This was our last episode, so most recent. Come check us out. And Air Recca. Air Recca says, is this podcast on Spotify or Apple? I believe that we're available on all podcast platforms. So if you're looking to download us on Spotify, on Apple, on Google Podcasts, we're available everywhere. Even on Facebook, we release on YouTube. We tried to touch all the bases to make sure that if you want to get the content, you can find it very easily. And we really appreciate everyone commenting on this video and connecting with us. And we hope that you continue to do so. Even Sean Brandt said, on behalf of all teenagers, thank you for your service. We've talked a lot about that in past episodes, the term, thank you for your service. Ryan, we've talked with you. And Amber, I'd like to ask you that question. If someone comes up to you to say, thank you for your service, do you feel like, do you appreciate that response? Do you feel like there's something that is different about it? We sort of debated this on the podcast before.
It's always awkward for me. You know, it's two parts. The reason why it's awkward. One is because, you know, I joined the military to be of service. And then the other part is that I really don't think that I've done anything that is so, you know, significant for thanks. It's just really awkward for me. I don't know how to take it. So then I just say, you know, no, thank you, or you're welcome.
Yeah.
Just to, you know, break some of that tension.
That's interesting. Ryan, you've talked about that. You've said like that, you know, you appreciate the sentiment.
Yeah. I typically have just come to say, you know, it's my pleasure, because you know, when I sat down and I thought about it, like that's the truth. Like I'm doing this because I want to, and you know, I appreciate your support, but really, you know, it's my pleasure. It's given me more than it's taken.
And last comment I'll read is from Erica Campbell. She says, when I was in Kandahar, someone yelled, "Campbell, are you in the shower? Because it smells like orange." I've never been so embarrassed in my life, with some emojis following that. So come see us on TikTok. You also get to see some great Veterans Breakfast Club content from our vast network of veterans and them telling their stories, not just from the Scuttlebutt. But moving on now to our word or phrase of the day. Ryan, this might have been one of the first phrases I heard from you when I met you quite a while ago. But I heard you say during one of your storytelling events with VBC, you said the word voluntold, and I thought it was hysterical. So I thought I'd bring it up again and describe the fact that we have two different kinds of voluntold. We have one, and this is an example, the gunny walks into the office and says, "Man, wouldn't the floor look nice if somebody buffed it?" Which means buff the floor. And two, I need 2 volunteers to stand out in front of Best Buy this Saturday and collect toys for tots, which is sort of just you're being told to do it, but you're volunteering for it. Is that correct?
Yeah. You pretty much hit the nail on the head. I mean, it's like, it's not a question, but it's a nice way to say you're going to go do this.
What is the worst thing you've been voluntold to do? And have you ever voluntold someone to do something?
Oh, I've voluntold lots of people. I mean, once you get once you get a little bit of rank, and then, you know, when I became an officer, so I was an NCO and then now I'm an officer, you know, that was just always kind of been my command style, was like, I unless I absolutely had to, I didn't want to be standing up and yelling at people, but, you know, I would just, you know, hey, you know, you're going to do this, or, you know, I feel like that people accept it a lot more. I feel like when people feel respected, they'll probably do a better job. But, you know, but worst thing that I've ever been voluntold to do, that's a good question. I mean,
think about it for a second. Amber, do you have one?
For a minute.
Yeah.
The worst thing that I've been voluntold to do?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, no, I can't even think of anything, honestly. But I voluntold all the time, or voluntel all the time. Especially, you know, now that I don't have any kids personally, but I have nieces and nephews. And so to make sure that they understand that they've been voluntold, I said that was not a request.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
I just thought of something. So this was on my first tour in Iraq around 2004, 2005. And we got sent out to this outpost. It was kind of in the middle of the city, and it was very austere. It was, you know, it was kind of like, I didn't think that we were still fighting the war this way. Right. And we didn't have any plumbing. We had 0 plumbing. We had built outhouses, and in those outhouses were oil cans that had been cut in half and were used to collect the refuse. So somebody has to take care of that. And at the time, I was young specialist all, and I got you drag it out, you open up the door, you drag out the half barrel, you pour some kerosene fluid in there, and they give you a stake, a big metal stake, and you got to light it up on fire and stir it.
Stir it. I think I saw that in Jarhead.
That was in a movie.
Yeah.
I didn't think it actually existed anymore. I had seen movies, Vietnam era movies, and in Jarhead, but this is 20 years after the Gulf War. I was like, this doesn't happen anymore. And I remember when I was told by my sergeant, like, hey, you got poop duty. I thought he was joking, and
I just wanted to see that all the adults in the room, as soon as we heard the word poop, we all laughed. I just wanted to call that out. Becky, you seem to have a question.
I'm trying to keep it PG.
No,
he did not use the word poop.
No, I can't top that one.
No.
Thankfully.
Well, the other word I wanted to call out was hua, which last week we talked with a group of Marines about the word oorah, and we found out that each branch seems to have their own cadence. And I thought I'd ask you guys, because it seems like in a little more research, it seems like that the Army and the Marines are the only two that really have one of these. We found a couple other ones with the Air Force and the Navy that maybe are a bit skeptical, a bit questionable. But can you tell me what hua meant to you and how you used it to work with your team?
Yeah, hua is, when you're a young private and you enlist, it's like, it means anything but no. And you just say hua to everything. And it's just like this big motivational thing. And you're hua this and hua that. And, okay. As you stay in the Army longer, it becomes like a parody of itself, where it's no longer, it's kind of frowned upon to say hua. If you're like an NCO and, you talk to another NCO and they say, yeah, hua. You're like, oh, come on, man. We don't use that word. That's for privates. Like privates use that word, and then it becomes like this, and then it becomes sarcastic. So whenever you get an order that you don't like, or that you think is silly or dumb, then you say, yeah, roger that, hua.
Which was your response when you were on poop duty?
Yeah, I was like, oh, yeah. Hua.
Hua.
Will do.
It was more than sound, maybe.
Yeah.
Amber, did you remember, was that part of like your basic training? Was that something that they tried to get energy within the group? Was it a hua,
It was always hua, and I'm not the most excitable person, if you haven't noticed. So hua became my go-to in order to hide my attitude. You tell me that I got to go and do something, hua.
False motivation is better than no motivation.
Yeah.
Right.
Got me through a lot of tough times.
I have an interjection with the hua from a civilian standpoint. When I was with Nate in Fort Hood, I attended a PT session with him, and I guess I assumed it was more of a celebratory exclamation, because during PT they would scream out hua. And then a second time I heard it was at a banquet that I was participating in, and I guess they used it as a similarity to cheers, like a toast. And so that's, from the civilian standpoint, I would interpret it as celebratory.
Yeah.
Or
being a military wife, Becky, did you ever pick up on some of the military terminology, the military speak in a way, like, if you were asked to do something, you'd respond hua, just because you're just in the military world and it's sort of like all around you consistently?
No, because I really wasn't involved very long with that. Nate and I were only married a year, and for the majority of that time he was deployed. The one thing I noticed when we were dating and leading up to us being together more regularly, nobody in the military calls anybody by their full name. I think most of the guys in Nate's platoon didn't even know his first name was Nate. It was just Nyren, and it was more like Nyren. Like they don't speak in full syllables, and it was never sergeant. It's like sergeant. It's just the way that things are pronounced that really threw me for a loop, because my friends will always give me a hard time that I'm part of the grammar police. So it was a big adjustment for me. I'm like, what are they saying?
I know with joining Veterans Breakfast Club about 6 months ago, whenever I was interviewed for the position, they asked, what challenges do you anticipate seeing? And I was like, it's definitely like a language barrier. It's learning a whole another language. And, that comes with time. The more you hear it, the more it just sort of makes sense. And that could be anything. That's why we've put in this word phrase of the week. It's something to just sort of like let you hear something that's a little different than what you're used to, but gives you sort of like an understanding of like, oh, they use this for a reason. It's not just because, we're not just going to say hua for nothing. It has a history. It has a reason for being. We're going to dive now into our headline segment. We're happy to get back to it this week after our part 2 of Marines last week. But first one that I saw was Army looking to change the size of infantry squads. This was from military.com. And for the past 3 years, the Army has been rushing to perfect new advanced weapons and other sophisticated battle technology to prepare for large-scale combat with potential adversaries such as Russia and China. Maneuver officials will support an Army-directed squad study of the first of its kind in many decades to determine the optimal size of the infantry squad using next-generation capabilities. Army Infantry School Commandant Brigadier General David M. Hodd said the squad study, which will be run by the Soldier Lethality Cross-Functional Team and the Maneuver Capabilities Development and Integration Directorate, is overdue, but cautioned that the squad is not likely to shrink below 9 soldiers. He also went on to say that for our initial results through experimentation, we do know that reducing the squad to less than 9 soldiers is not a good idea and will not recommend reducing the size of the current rifle squad. Brian, I know I really want to get into your opinion on this, but I also want to just call out the fact that whenever you read these military terms like Soldier Lethality Cross-Functional Team and Maneuver Capabilities Development and Integration Directorate, you run out of breath.
Yeah.
So, but I'm interested to hear what your thoughts are in this study.
So yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense. I think it is overdue. I spent 11, almost 12 years in the infantry, and I think the most important point to bring up there is like 9 is the magic number, and to make some sense about why that's definitely not going to get any smaller is there's so much doctrine and so much training we do that is based around that number, and here's why that number makes sense. An infantry squad is made up of 2 teams. Each team is 4 personnel. And then there's a squad leader, so that makes 9, right? So the team is made up of a team leader, typically a sergeant, a rifleman, a grenadier, and then a machine gunner. So each squad has that capability. They have altogether 2 grenadiers, 2 machine gunners, 2 extra riflemen, and 2 team leaders. And then the squad leader directs those 2 teams. That's his primary job. So to change that number would be having to throw out you'd have to redo a bunch of training, a bunch of different doctrine, and just have to change the whole manner in which the infantry squad and the infantry platoon operates. So it's definitely not going to get any smaller than 9. That makes a lot of sense. From some personal experience, on my second tour, I was in a Stryker brigade, and at the time, the Stryker was like a brand new vehicle. So we had to change the manner in which we were kind of constructed to best take advantage of that piece of equipment, which is exactly what they're talking about now. There's new equipment coming out. They're going to have to evaluate what the best way is to do that. So for us, it was essentially like we were plussed up by 2. Now our squads were 11. Mm-hmm. We had 9. The infantry squad as dismounts, and then we had a driver for the vehicle and a vehicle commander who also operated as the weapons system, the gunner. So that's one manner, in which like a piece of equipment or technology kind of adjusts the way that you train and how you're constructed, and then how that happens. So I think on a base level, military guys and Army guys and girls, and especially the infantry, very much focuses on a mission, and they will come up with their own standard operating procedures and TTPs to figure out what is best for what they have going on. And so we see that in an informal way all over the Army to structure themselves in the best way to do their job and how they want to do it. Formally, I think that's going to be going forward when they start putting out more pieces of equipment, and then also, training people on it and what is the best way, especially to fight a near peer or a peer level adversary, when over the past 20 years, we've been mostly focused on counterinsurgency. That's a whole different mission, takes different equipment, and takes different, tactics.
And you had said TTP. What did that stand for?
Tactics, techniques, and procedures.
Our second headline is the Senate has cleared the way for Alwyn Cashe to receive a posthumous Medal of Honor. The Senate passed by unanimous consent H.R. 8276, a bill that waives a 5-year time limit on awarding the military's highest valor medal. The U.S. House passed the bill September 23rd. The Senate process was delayed amid confirmation hearings for Supreme Court nominee Amy Coney Barrett. 15 years ago, 35-year-old Sergeant First Class Alwyn Cashe was a U.S. Army non-commissioned officer. He sacrificed his life to pull injured comrades out of a burning Bradley fighting vehicle. And the U.S. Senate has eliminated the final obstacle standing in the way for him to receive the Medal of Honor. On October 17, 2005, Cashe's vehicle in Samarra, Iraq, hit an improvised explosive device, punctured a fuel tank, and drenched Cashe in flammable liquid. And despite the flames, which were quickly consuming his uniform and Cashe himself, Cashe returned to the vehicle again and again, pulling out 6 soldiers. He refused medical attention for himself until they were all attended to. He died later on November 8th from the burns he sustained. A hero, and it's awesome to see that this was passed unanimously. I believe it's deserving of the Medal of Honor. I don't know if either of you have kept up with Alwyn Cashe. I know that one of our local Steelers wore his name on his helmet as he wanted to honor him and hopefully help push through his Medal of Honor recognition. But I thought I would ask you about the Medal of Honor, what you feel it means, and if you feel like what Alwyn Cashe did was this incredible act of heroism.
I think medals are significant, because they pass down, to our family members, and it becomes a legacy that can't be taken away from your lineage.
And I think that in the civilian world, we want to praise it and give medals to it. But I think in the military, I would feel, is there a different mindset on what his actions meant?
For me personally, there's no, I think I see it the same way as a civilian. Even though you join the military with, the notion that you are sacrificing yourself for, this greater good, your country, etc. When you're in the heat of the moment, that really tells on who you are as a soldier. Are you going to respond in a honorable way, or are you going to do something other than that? And it takes a very special person, to be able to do it. And for this particular story, it hits home for me for 2 reasons. One is why it took so long for it to be recognized, and the parameters that are around this particular medal, and where exactly he is. I don't know if we can touch on that here, but the fact that he's getting it is great. I just wish that, with these type of medals, because I think the parameters are outdated, that it would not be as much of an obstacle for people, because we have a lot more heroes within the military on a daily basis than what is being recognized, because we are not necessarily at war or, in an active campaign. But there's things that are happening that the average person doesn't know about on a daily basis, especially when you're in these remote areas.
Very well said, Amber. And Ryan, I'm sure you have some thoughts on that.
Yeah, Amber, all great points. I think that in the military, what tends to happen is that, good work and great things tend to more often than not get recognized, right? Because like you're busy doing your job in a lot of ways, and we're focused more on improving people rather than kind of recognizing success. So for, Sergeant Cashe to have gone so above and beyond and exemplifying so many of the Army values, especially obviously here, like selfless service and personal courage, the recognition is certainly deserving. you don't join the military typically for medals, right? Or to get a level of recognition. So recognizing it when it happens, I think is extremely important to do.
Becky, I'm interested to hear your thoughts as someone who sort of has lived both in both worlds. Like, you know, I get up, I go to work in the civilian world, and we don't experience this level of heroism, obviously, in the civilian world. I think if that happened, it would, I don't know if we would know how to process it properly. I feel like the military has a way to process that. How do you see not only sacrifice in the military, but recognition for heroism from your perspective?
Well, from personal involvement, I know most people I talk to, military and civilian, they assume Nate got a Purple Heart. He didn't. He was killed in action, but it was categorized as a non-hostile event because it was a vehicle accident. Even though I think the vehicle accident was intentional, caused by an Iraqi civilian family. And I even had people come to me and say, well, you need to fight for that. And I fought for it. And Congressman Lamb's office was so gracious. He has a wonderful woman working in his office named Marcy. She took my case directly to Washington, and to no avail. So when you automatically think someone is deserving or should get a medal, there are hoops you have to jump through and things you have to prove, I guess, beyond a reasonable doubt. So, you know, it's unfortunate because, you know, what constitutes non-hostile when you're in a hostile environment? That was my question. He was in uniform. He was driving a fully up armored Humvee with his caravan, and he was targeted, in my opinion. So, so he did receive the Bronze Star Medal posthumously, which, you know, I think anybody in any situation should get some type of medal. I mean, I think every military person should receive a medal of some sort just for serving. And I know most people do get medals in certain situations, but the level of medals really has to be proven. And I think in this case with the Medal of Honor, to me, it sounds like it's more than well deserved.
Mm-hmm. That's so interesting too, because we sort of we've heard that repeated a lot. We're living in a society where everybody gets a trophy, everybody gets a medal. If you're joining the military, you're not necessarily joining to get medals, but I think there's this feeling of like, no, you're making this incredible sacrifice. If you're, we believe that you should get medals for making these sacrifices. I think that's definitely a topic I'd like to come back to continuously, as to hear more about people's feelings on medals, how they are handed out, why they're handed out, when, the hoops that have to be jumped through for this. Like, I think you've jumped through enough if you sign up and enlist. I think that's the hoop, in my opinion. But yeah, definitely very intriguing. And moving straight into our main story, this is part 4 of our 6-part series focusing on each individual branch of the military. But this time it is Army. And I wanted to start with the core principles of what the Army is, like loyalty, duty, respect, selfless service, honor, integrity, and personal courage. We've sort of already touched on some of these, talking about Sergeant Cashe. And I want to talk to Amber and Ryan about what these meant to you as you enlisted, what they have meant to you throughout the course of your career and your service, and do those stick with you as you continue to move into civilian life. And I'd like to start with Ryan, and maybe we could just start from when you enlisted.
So why the Army? I hope I wasn't smart enough to get into the Air Force, I guess. My dad was an Air Force veteran. I grew up in the Air Force. I became obsessed with Rambo movies. I wanted to be Rambo. And it wasn't until, and I was young and I was a teenager, and of course you don't listen to your parents. And he was like, life in the Army isn't the same as in the Air Force. And I was like, well, what could be so different, right? Well, a lot. There can be a lot of differences. But yeah, I joined the Army when I was 18. And I wanted to be in the infantry. My father, who was an Air Force guy, thought for years that I was like drafted into the infantry, that I hadn't voluntarily picked the infantry. And then when he found out that I had volunteered like to join the infantry, he just said, well, I just don't feel bad for you anymore. And but yeah, leadership, right? Loyalty, duty, respect, selfless service, honor, integrity, personal courage. The code of conduct, the soldier's creed, for me, the infantryman's creed, this is all part of, kind of indoctrinating you into what it's supposed to be in the military, because you are, now part of an organization whose job is to defend your country, and to defeat enemies, using violence. So you have to be prepared to do that, and you have to have a framework around which you can then trust, your coworkers, your battle buddies, that they are going to act in the manner that's required to accomplish those missions. So do those values, do the Army values stick with me? I think absolutely. I think you have to have some level of the Army values just to go and join the military or to join the Army, to have some sort of sense of something bigger than yourself, and have a love of your country, and to display some personal courage and some integrity and selfless service, to just even consider going join the military. So I think they really help ramp up, and make you understand why those values are important, especially integrity. They harp on that all the time, doing the right thing even when no one's around. That's important. That's extremely important, especially when you're talking about accomplishing a mission as part of the military, the Army. So I think they do a great job of making sure that you understand that, and to making it part of your life. And I think that sticks with you, even when you're not in uniform, for sure.
Amber, let's jump back in time to when you enlisted, and why did you pick the Army?
I picked the Army because that is the recruiter that came to my school.
Made it a little easy.
Yeah.
I knew that I wanted to join, the service. My father was in Air Force. My brother was a Marine. And I knew that I wanted to do something. I just didn't know what or how or when. So when the recruiter came and I was like, oh, I get to leave Pittsburgh, I'm in. Just tell me what I need to do. And I'm there. So I enlisted right after high school. Like I graduated, and then the next day, my dad was taking me to my drop-off point. How
was that? How was that trip?
Well, so the reason why he had to take me is because I did not wake up in time in order to catch the bus to take me.
That's a good start.
Yeah.
So I got smacked with a fork because he had to drive all the way to Harrisburg to take me to my drop-off point.
And you brought up that your brother was a Marine, and that's one question I have, because in my mind, I think I definitely learned the difference between the Marines and the Army. It seems to me that there are similarities, but why pick the Army over the Marines, and what did he think of you joining the Army?
Well, so my brother is a lot older than me. We have about an 18-year difference. And so it wasn't until I joined that we actually started having those conversations about, his life in the military, versus what it is for me to expect as, in Army versus, say, a Marine. And so I didn't really have a concept of, going back to values, I didn't really have a concept of the military values. I just knew that it was an honorable thing to do. I needed to leave the city. And so this was, like my great escape. And I didn't start embodying the values until I started connecting with my comrades, like, the people that I was in basic training with, AIT, etc. So the more that, I served, and the different experiences that I had was, it became something that was more of, who I am than, just being tenets on a wall, and making sure that, to be a good soldier, that I at least on the surface exemplify these things. So.
And how has that stayed with you as you've sort of transitioned back to civilian life?
Into civilian life, at first I was so rigid with it, to the point where, if I saw something and I was just like, you see something, say something. That was me. And I was like, you need to calm this down just a little bit, You can wear it inside and just be, that walking example versus, enforcing other people to be also walking examples.
Do you still square off the bed sheets though?
I only do it at my significant other's house because he's not that far from out of the Air Force.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't even know if Air Force makes beds, to be honest.
They pay someone for that. I don't.
The Helltail
like
techs will care before him.
Uh,
We always like to poke a little bit of fun at the Air Force, though we did learn in our Scuttlebutt Air Force episode that they are definitely pretty incredible. So I just
Yes.
join us for BBC, where we have a lot of fun with our Air Force vets.
We're just all jealous.
Maybe, yeah. I'm definitely jealous of the fact that they get to fly fighter jets. I've talked about that before. That's my, on my bucket list. I wanted to become a fighter jet pilot. My eyes went bad. There you go.
My father said to me, I just saw him recently, and he said to me when we were talking about this, because he was in the Air Force, right? And, we were talking about different branches, and he said, "Did you ever hear the words come out of my mouth? I'm going to be late for formation." But I said, "No." He said, "That's all you need to know." Right?
Well, thank you, Amber. And Becky, speaking of Nate and why he decided to join the Army and what that meant to him whenever he was in.
Well, he didn't join until he was 22. He had a failed stint at college, and he just, I think, decided with the encouragement of his parents, who they were both Air Force. Speaking of Air Force, they advised him that he needed a little bit of guidance at 22 years old. Mm-hmm. So his stepdad was in the Army, 30-year retired sergeant major, and I think seeing his success in the Army, Nate decided to join the Army, and I think he planned on making a career out of it. And so I think, joining the military is great for young people that need a little direction in life. And it was apparent. He had been in the military for 7 years when I met him, 8 years actually. And I think based on what his parents said, it definitely turned him around from where he was, 6-7 years prior to that.
Mm-hmm. It's interesting because one of the things we talked about early in this Scuttlebutt episode 1 or 2 was why do people join? And so far, I think we've touched on all of the top points from that episode is family history in the military, wanting to escape out of where you live, having sort of a passion for the country, I think, or needing a direction in life. I think those are always sort of top choices when asked, why did you join? You usually hear those ones in the top 4. Amber, I know you have to head out here soon. But I want to thank you so much for joining us for the episode. And if you were going to tell anybody to join a branch, why would you tell them to join the Army?
I don't know. It just makes you tough.
It makes you tough.
It makes you tough. I think, joining the Army, I can't really speak for anything else, but I think I am able to maneuver just through almost anything. Mm-hmm. Because of my experiences in the Army.
Awesome. Yeah. Ryan, as a recruiter, you used to do some recruiting. Is that right?
When I was a brand new E5, I got to be a recruiter's assistant.
Okay.
Because this was 2007, mm-hmm. and the conflicts were really bad at the time, and they were just trying to get anybody and everybody to join the military. And during that 6-month stint, I successfully enlisted 0 people.
So there was probably a reason why they moved you off that detail.
Yeah, probably. I mean, we were giving stuff away. We were giving, if you wanted to just sign up to be a truck driver, I could give you an $80,000 signing bonus. And I could not get people, high schools weren't even letting us in the door. It was madness. You kind of have to think back in time. In 2007, it was really bad. It was pretty bad over there. So that was a really tough time.
Very interesting. Well, Amber, thank you again. We'll hope to have you back on the Scuttlebutt for more gossip and more stories. But have a wonderful day, and we'll talk soon.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. This was a lot of fun.
Hi, Amber.
Bye. Thank you.
Ryan, I want to continue on with more of the Army. Becky as well. Is there something that when you were deployed, do you feel that the training that you went through in the Army, do you feel like that, like Amber said, that toughened you up? Did you feel secure in that training?
Oh, yeah. I mean, it definitely toughened me up. I had a drill sergeant who today would probably get thrown in jail. He, there's a couple things that he did. He was a great guy. When you come off the range in training, you have to it's called shotgunning your weapon. It's where you kind of like open it up so that it's no longer functional, and you put it on your shoulder, and they're supposed to come inspect you, and they go down the line, right? You're in a formation, so just a square, and you're all in 4 lines, and they walk by, and you say, "No brass, no ammo, drill sergeant," and then he's supposed to give you a little shake. This is one of the times which, in the rules, the drill sergeants are allowed to put their hands on you, which typically, actually, they're kind of restricted from doing. There's 2 places they can do it: on the range and at the grenade range, right? Obviously, if they have to do something for safety, they can do it there. So anyway, sitting there I'm standing in the first squad. There's 3 rows of people behind me, waiting for my turn for the drill sergeant to come up to me, give me a little shake, make sure I don't have any brass or ammo on me. He's going down the line. "No brass, no ammo, drill sergeant." "Gotcha. No brass, no ammo, drill sergeant." "No brass, no ammo, drill sergeant." He gets to me. I'm like, "No brass, no." And he hits me in the chest so hard that I land at the 3rd row back, right? And he just stands over me and he goes, "I believe you, Private All." And I was just like, what is this? So this was not the first, there was another time where we are sitting in these foxholes and we have these red dot scopes, which we have to get it so that it is you're supposed to align the little dot up to the top of your front sight post assembly just to start the 0 process that you can shoot with it. So I'm sitting in my foxhole. I've done it. He's going down the line. I'm the last one. He picks up my rifle. He checks if I've properly done this. And he says, "Good job, Private All. Somebody finally got it right." And this guy's been messing with me for weeks, so I don't know what's going on. So he's standing over me because I'm in the foxhole. He's out of it. He reaches out his hand like he's going to shake my hand. And I'm like, this is weird, right? This is really awkward. So I reach up and I grab his hand. And he slams me to the side of the foxhole and he squeezes my hand really, really hard. And he says, "Does that hurt, Private All?" And I said, "Not really, drill sergeant." And I don't know why I said that. That's such a stupid thing to say.
You're trying to be tough. You're like,
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, that doesn't hurt. So then he puts my hand on the gravel and steps on it and says, "How about now?" And I said, "Yes, drill sergeant." And he goes, "Fine." And he kicks me in the helmet and he walks away. So
you didn't use this story when you were in recruiting office, were you?
And maybe that's why I never got anybody to join. But later on, this was all part of this process, and I came to learn that he is picking on me because he likes me. And I find this out later when we get close to graduation. And he goes, "Private All, great job, blah blah blah." And he said, "You're the skinniest, toughest MFer in this platoon, and I saw a lot of myself in you, and that's why I was so hard on you." And I said, "Well, thanks, drill sergeant. It really, really helped." So, all part of growing up, all part of making you tougher.
I've heard a lot about this relationship that new recruits build with their drill instructors, and that's part of the reason, as again, we reported in the Scuttlebutt, as they've switched over to this first 100 yards, they're building more trust with your drill sergeants, building that relationship so that you trust what they are teaching you, as opposed to like what they call the shark attack, where everybody just sort of dives on you and you're a little discombobulated. It's culture shock. They really, the Army's really switching to this idea of, let's build the trust of what this unit is. And you really felt that even then, when the shark attack was still around, you still felt like that was that you built this trust and this relationship with your drill instructor, right?
I think there's benefits to both.
Mm-hmm.
With the shark attack, you're kind of, it's a rite of passage, right? It's a rite of passage. I think that it is part of shocking you into the idea that that things are different now, and you need to be put into a situation where you're going to be trained. I've read a little bit about the new system they're going to, and I think that has its merits as well. That it's all part of training people to be part of a team, and I think if they recognize that this is breaking people down too much, then changes are made. The military is extremely adaptable, and I think that makes a lot of sense. Looking back on it, right, I kind of have like these strangely fond memories of the shark attack, right? Just like but that doesn't mean that it was like that for everybody.
Kind of on that note, what's the retention level and consequences of basic training and boot camp if some people can't handle it? Because I don't know the accuracy of a lot of movies out there. I have no personal experience with basic training or boot camp, but is there a lot of retention, or do you lose people?
They don't want to lose you. You've been enlisted, you're being paid. Their job is to train you. They want to get you through. There are a lot, they are not trying, in basic training, they are not trying to make you quit.
Okay.
They are trying to make you better. They're trying to make you learn what they need you to learn, but they don't want you to quit. And, I've seen, I remember when I was in basic training, like there's a couple people who, for all intents and purposes, whether either medically or just, personally, like probably, could have washed out, but they don't want that to happen. They've already invested enough in you. You're here. They want to train you to do your job. They are expecting you downrange at your unit. Like you have a spot to fill. So it messes with the whole system when they got to restart all over again. So as tough as basic training is, they want you to pass.
Great question. And Becky, did Nate ever talk about the camaraderie that he built within the Army? I know that we talk about that a lot across all the branches, but it seems like that the Army has a little bit more of that special something. Maybe it's a special ingredient with the camaraderie.
Oh, absolutely. I think the guys he was with when he was deployed, I mean, the Band of Brothers is definitely the right title, because they spent every waking and sleeping 24/7 time together, and they had each other's backs. And to this day, I'm still in communication almost 16 years later with a lot of his platoon members. And I appreciate them just like they were part of my family. So there was definitely that special bond.
I'd love to leave our Army discussion there. I think it's a great way to segment into our Scuttlebutt round. We usually spin a virtual wheel, and since Amber isn't joining us, we really just have two options. So I'll spin it. There we go. I don't know which side it's on. It's on one of the sides. I'm sure Ellie, our editor, will figure out a way to add in the circle. But let's go with Ryan, with you first for our Scuttlebutt round.
Sure. I would like to bring attention to the Duffel blog, which, surprising to me, Sean, you just learned about this today. So the Duffel blog is a military satire news website. So it's just like The Onion, but it's specific to military. And just reading their headlines alone is typically just hilarious, right? So, first one, right? Shock. Army admits flu shot paperwork keeps getting lost because it wants you to die. Another one. Space Force quarantines lieutenants in wormhole to protect them from COVID-19. There's another one. Sergeant Major, reroutes drone to look for people walking on the grass. Right? Like, you don't even have, like, the articles are usually very funny. They're very short. But just the verbiage that they come up with, and sometimes just the fake names that they come up with to put on these people are just hilarious. So I think that especially, understanding, military culture it can be gained from reading Duffel Blog. So
who says the Army or the Marines or any of those branches doesn't have a funny bone, right?
Right. Yeah, exactly. Sometimes most of the time it's unintentional.
Right. I love the one that said 50 caliber equipped Roomba becomes sentient and sweeps room. That I'm so happy that you brought this blog to me. I'll be checking this every day, definitely.
Yeah.
I'll jump in next, and we'll finish out with Becky here. But I saw a great article on Task and Purpose asking how many bottles of Windex does it take to clean the Thunderbirds? Well, the Thunderbirds run through about 24 ounces of Windex per jet after every flight, with 52 sorties a week during a normal show season. That adds up to a lot of Windex. The Air Force doesn't officially endorse Windex, of course, but it does endorse the professionalism of its airmen. Captain Mike Bell, maintenance officer for the Thunderbirds, said, "Our job is to represent all Air Force mechanics, and we view that as a large responsibility. Cleaning the aircraft is one way we can make an impression of the skill and aptitude of the mechanics who maintain them." The first cleaning usually takes about 15-20 minutes when the crew first shows up to the hangar in the morning. Then this is a light cleaning, mostly to get the morning dew and humidity off the wings and the landing gear doors. Post-flight, though, that can take up to 30 to 45 minutes. And what are they wiping off? Bugs. Not Bugs Bunny, tons of bugs. And it sort of depends on where they're flying, because if they're flying in Florida, you can imagine the bugs they're wiping off. But maintainers also said that they clean off hydraulic fluid, smoke oil, landing gear fluid, and engine exhaust. They make these things shine. You could eat an egg off of it. But just because I'm such a nerd for fighter jets, I thought it was pretty cool to find out that how thoroughly they clean them after and before every use. But Becky, I'd love to jump to you for our final scuttlebutt of the episode.
Well, today, Sean, I'm going to give a shout out to a fundraising project, which I have more or less been voluntold by our fearless leader, Todd DiPastino, endearingly, of course, and I'm happy to do it. And I'm also happy that he thinks I'm one of the ones for the job. But the Military Community Support Project is spearheading a World War I memorial restoration project here in the city of Pittsburgh. There are two World War I memorials that we're focusing on. One is in the Friendship area of the city at the Obama Academy, formerly Peabody High School, and the other one is in the 9th Ward of Lawrenceville. Both of these statues are in dire need of refurbishment, and we're spearheading a project, like I said, to raise about $40,000. It's about $20,000 each, and I think we have the flyer that we'll put up here, and keep an eye out on the VBC website and the Military Community Support Project website for further information.
Great. We'll post those links in the video. Love if you'd be able to donate to help that cause. Thank you for bringing it to us, Becky. That does it for our Army episode. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. Please remember to like, share, subscribe, ring the bell, and find us on TikTok, because everybody's finding us on TikTok. But thank you again, everyone, and we'll talk with you next week.
Thanks, Sean. Everybody have a happy and safe Thanksgiving as well.
I echo that. Happy and safe to everyone. Happy Thanksgiving.